Welcome back to Daily World 60. This is our weekly deep dive where we slow down, take one big story, and unpack what really happened and why it matters. A historic deal to end the Iran war was days from being signed. Then Israel struck 100 targets inside Iran, and the peace talks collapsed entirely. Let's get into it. On the morning of June 8, 2026, air raid sirens woke millions of Israelis as nearly 30 Iranian ballistic missiles streaked toward 3 military air bases. Within hours, Israeli warplanes were in the skies over Iran, striking air defense systems and a large petrochemical complex in the city of Mashhad in southwestern Iran. Iran uses that plant to produce raw materials for ballistic missiles. These exchanges marked the most serious military confrontation between the two countries since an April ceasefire had paused the fighting. U.S. President Donald Trump made 2 urgent phone calls to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, pressuring him to stop. Netanyahu eventually announced a halt. Iran said it would also stop, but only if Israel ended its ongoing attacks on Hezbollah forces in Lebanon. Israel refused. Then, just 5 days later on June 13th, Israel launched its most dramatic strike yet. Roughly 100 targets hit across Iran, killing more than 30 senior security officials and 11 top nuclear scientists. The strikes were supposed to weaken Iran's military capabilities. But they ended something else instead, a peace deal that was just hours away from being signed. To understand this week, you need to go back to February 28, 2026. That was the day the United States and Israel launched a surprise military operation codenamed Operation Epic Fury. American and Israeli aircraft struck military sites, government buildings, and command centers across Iran. Among those killed was Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, the man who had led the Islamic Republic for more than 35 years. The killing shocked governments around the world. But the conflict did not start on February 28th. The roots go back years. In June 2025, Israel fought a short but intense conflict called the 12-Day War, striking Iranian nuclear and military facilities directly. Iran hit back hard. Then, in early 2026, nuclear negotiations between the US and Iran collapsed. Trump said he was not thrilled with how the talks were going. Netanyahu lobbied Trump personally for a joint strike on Iran's leadership. He argued that Iran was dangerously close to having enough nuclear material for a weapon. Trump agreed. The February 28th strikes launched the most serious war in the Middle East in decades, with the United States and Israel on one side and Iran on the other. Everything that followed, the oil shock, the ceasefire, this week's strikes, grew from that single decision. Iran's response to the February strikes was immediate and powerful. Its forces attacked U.S. military bases across the Middle East, fired missiles at Israel, and did something the world had long feared. They blocked the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow waterway between Iran and the Arabian Peninsula. It is one of the most critical trade routes on Earth. About 25% of the world's seaborne oil and 20% of all liquefied natural gas passes through it every single day. When Iran blocked it using naval patrols, sea mines, and threats against any passing ship, the consequences were severe. Global oil prices rose past $130 per barrel, nearly double pre-war levels. European gas prices nearly doubled. Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Kuwait together lost more than 10 million barrels per day in oil exports. The economic pain spread quickly beyond the region. Gulf states that depend on the strait for most of their food imports faced serious shortages. Food prices in those countries jumped by as much as 120% in some areas. A regional war had become a global economic crisis. Ordinary people across Asia, Europe, and Africa were paying the price at petrol stations and grocery stores, even though they lived thousands of kilometers from the fighting. After 6 weeks of intense fighting, all sides had reasons to pause. Oil prices were pushing the global economy toward recession. U.S. military resources were stretched. And Iran, despite causing enormous economic damage, had absorbed serious losses of its own. On April 7th and 8th, the United States and Iran agreed to a ceasefire, brokered by Pakistan. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir played a central role in bringing both sides to the table. Under the agreement, Iran would reopen the Strait of Hormuz and military attacks would stop. The ceasefire was only supposed to last 2 weeks, but Trump later extended it indefinitely. Behind this fragile public pause, serious negotiations were quietly underway. The U.S. wanted Iran to permanently end its nuclear program, limit its missiles, and stop supporting armed groups like Hezbollah. Iran wanted full security guarantees against future attacks, war reparations, and an end to all U.S. and Israeli military operations, including those in Lebanon. The two sides were far apart, but by early June, something remarkable seemed to be happening. A peace framework was nearly complete. Pakistan's Prime Minister announced the deal text had been finalized. A signing ceremony was being arranged in Europe. The end of the war seemed genuinely within reach for the first time. So why did Israel strike again just as a peace deal was almost within reach? The answer lies in what Israel fears most, an Iran that retains nuclear knowledge. Israeli officials have long argued that any peace agreement allowing Iran to keep its nuclear infrastructure is not real peace, it is only a delay. Before the war began, Iran had enriched uranium to 60% purity, dangerously close to weapons-grade levels. Even under a peace deal, the knowledge, the materials, and the experts would still exist. At any future moment, Iran could rebuild a weapons capability quickly. By targeting 11 senior nuclear scientists on June 13th, Israel was attempting to destroy something that ordinary bombs cannot easily remove: human expertise. Killing the scientists who understand how to build a weapon sets a program back far more effectively than bombing buildings that can simply be rebuilt. Israel also faced powerful domestic political pressure. Prime Minister Netanyahu leads a government coalition that opposes any peace deal leaving Hezbollah strong in Lebanon. Israel is fighting Hezbollah in southern Lebanon at the same time it is fighting Iran. For Netanyahu, the two conflicts are deeply connected. A peace deal for Iran that does not also weaken Hezbollah was seen as both politically and strategically unacceptable to his government. This crisis looks very different depending on where you stand. For Israel, the strikes were necessary. Iran openly calls for Israel's destruction and funds armed groups that attack Israeli civilians. An Iran that retains nuclear knowledge, even under a temporary agreement, remains a permanent existential threat. Israel believes it cannot afford to be wrong about this. For the United States under Trump, the picture is more complex. A peace deal would lower oil prices, ease inflation at home, and allow Trump to claim a historic diplomatic victory. The June 13th strikes came as Trump was reportedly expecting a signing ceremony within days. U.S. officials said he was furious at Netanyahu. For Iran, the situation is deeply painful. The country had agreed to major concessions, including steps toward dismantling its nuclear program. Negotiators were close to finishing a deal. Then Israel killed their scientists and commanders. Iran's government says it will not return to the negotiating table while under attack, and views the strikes as deliberate sabotage of the peace process. For Gulf Arab states, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, the priority is simple: end the war. Their economies have suffered enormously, and their populations have faced food shortages and rising prices. They have quietly pushed all sides toward talks, and they want stability above all else. The path forward is deeply uncertain, and several critical questions will shape what happens next. The first is whether the nuclear peace talks can be revived. Pakistan, which invested enormous political effort in brokering the deal, has called for a return to negotiations. Oman has offered to help mediate as well, but Iran's trust has been severely damaged. Why sign an agreement when your partner's ally can attack you again the very next day? The second question involves Iran's nuclear future. The country's nuclear program has been bombed twice, in the 12-day war of June 2025 and again in June 2026. Key scientists have been killed, but experts warn that destroying nuclear knowledge is far harder than destroying nuclear buildings. Iran may now pursue a covert weapons program. There is a real fear that strikes designed to prevent a nuclear Iran may actually accelerate that outcome. Third, Lebanon remains a critical variable. Israel is continuing attacks on Hezbollah. Iran has consistently said that any lasting ceasefire must include an end to Israeli operations in Lebanon. If Hezbollah is seriously weakened in the coming weeks, Iran may eventually decide it has lost enough leverage that a negotiated deal, even on worse terms than before, is the only realistic option remaining. For now, the region waits, uncertain, for whoever makes the next move. Today's word: mediation. A process where a neutral third party helps two sides in a conflict reach a peaceful agreement. Thank you for watching Daily World 60's Weekly Deep Dive. Subscribe and hit the bell. Every week we go deeper on the one story that matters most.